name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are talking about my favorite comics, graphic novels, and manga of 2024. So I recently posted my best books of 2024 and my worst books of 2024. My worst books actually did have books as well as comics, graphic novels, and manga because I didn't actually read too many horrible things, which is great. However, I did read enough really good things that I did need to split up my books versus my comics, graphic novels, and manga. I actually have more 5 stars for comics, graphic novels, and manga than I did normal books. Part of it, I think, is because of the different style of reading, the fact that we have this, like, graphic nature to it. I do sometimes find a little bit more enjoyment or a little easier enjoyment in them. So I do have 10 top books to talk about today in comics, graphic novels, and manga. But I'm also going to run through a very, very quick, like, honorable mentions, other 5-star reads that I did have, but are just not the ones that are like my top 10. So because of that, I think we're gonna jump right on in. And so we're gonna just, like I said, run very, very quickly through the honorable mentions. So the first one that I have here is Perfect World Volume 11 and 12 by Rie Aruga. This is an adult sort of romance series where one of the main characters, the guy, is in a wheelchair, and I really enjoyed this series, but I only gave 5 stars to the last 2 volumes. The next one I have here is Ali by Junji Ito. This is a short story collection, one of his new short story collections, and I rate quite a few Junji Ito's very, very highly. I just love it. Horror short stories. Then I have Orange to You Dear One by Ichigo Takano. This is the, like, second epilogue almost to this series, but I do absolutely love it. I loved seeing the characters again, but I only read 1 volume this year, so yeah. I also read and rated as 5 stars Something is Killing the Children Volume 4, 5, and 7, as well as House of Slaughter Volume 1 by James Tynion IV. These are horror comics where, I mean, I think the first title tells you something is killing the children. There's like monsters that only children or these people that fight them can see. I didn't think Volume 6 lived up to a 5-star, that's why it's not on this list. And then House of Slaughter is sort of like a prequel. I really enjoyed these ones. They're just not like my absolute new favorites for the year. And then the last one I have for honorable mention is Saga Volume 11 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This one, I've been reading it for like a decade now, and I've been reading it and loving it the entire time. I think being able to read something for like over 10 years and still absolutely love it tells you something, but it's the 11th volume in this series. It's like a sci-fi fantasy because there's a little bit of magic too. Sort of like Romeo and Juliet retelling. People on BookTube absolutely love this. I absolutely love it. And like I said, I've read it for 10 years, but it's only 1 volume in the series. So that was part of the reason I didn't mention all of these, and like I'm not going to talk about all of them extensively because a lot of the ones that I do want to talk about, my top 10, I read more volumes or it's a new series to me, things that I'm very excited that I found compared to just like 1 volume that I continued in a series that I already knew I was loving. So let's get into it. My number 10, I do sort of have these in order, is The Outside. This is by The Cow, but I think it had multiple different authors. This is a non-fiction graphic novel anthology all about being trans and non-binary. I really loved the look at this one. Lots of different art styles, lots of different people submitted to this, and I really did like the different takes that people have on this. It is obviously going to be very personal to these people, but it was a very easy way to get into reading non-fiction if it's something that you're not used to, like me. Number 9 is very similar. This is going to be Sensory Life on the Spectrum. This is by Bex Allerton. This one is about being autistic. But so again, it's going to be a lot of different people that submitted to this. Lots of different art styles. Very much part of like their identity and like how it relates to them. Very personal stories. This one did have some like informational stuff as well throughout. I think it was from Bex, where we had like different, like, here is what this means, but a lot of this was about their own personal journey with being autistic. Moving on to number 8, I have 2 volumes here out of 4 that I read. So the first 2 volumes I did not give 5 stars, but the second 2 that I read I did. So I have Tokyo Tarareba Girls by Akiko Hikishimura. This is the same author as Princess Jellyfish, which I absolutely love that series. But I read volumes 1 and 2. I think I gave volume 1 a 4, volume 2 either a 4 or 4.5. And then by the time I got to volume 3 and volume 4, I gave them both 5 stars. This one is very much a look at adult female friendships. And I really loved that aspect of this. This is these women who realize they're going to be turning 30, I want to say, during like the Tokyo Olympics. And so they are in Tokyo and they're wanting to have more for themselves, more stuff at their work, more relationships, like things like that. It does get sort of messy. Like, we have one character who is sort of the side piece to an actual marriage. Like, we have some infidelity, things like that. The first volume also had a little bit of like a sexual harassment sort of thing, but I'm really loving the development of the characters. We do have a lot of alcohol in here in case that is something you want to be aware of. These characters meet a lot at a bar that I think one of their dads owns, and so they're getting drunk a lot and talking about their life, and it is very messy and things like that, but I really do need to finish the series. I only had 1 through 4 on my shelves. I think there's like 6 or 7 total, and I really want to continue because I'm really invested in the adult relationships that we have here. Yeah, I need to see this through. My number 7 is going to be another 2 volumes out of 4 that I read. So I read She Loves to Cook and She Loves to Eat by Sakaomi Yuzaki. Volume 1 I gave a 3.5, I want to say. Volume 2 I gave a 4. And then volumes 3 and 4 I gave 5 stars each. I have absolutely been loving each volume more and more. And I think it's just because volume 1 starts off a little bit slow. I have talked about, I think, most of these volumes in vlogs on my channel near the end of the year. And basically it ends up being like sort of like a sapphic romance. Again, these are going to be adult women. One of them really loves to cook but doesn't really eat too much, and so thinks like she's not allowed to make these really big or creative dishes, but then her neighbor from like a couple doors down is the other woman who loves to eat, and so she starts making her meals because she loves to cook, she loves to eat, and by the time we get to that 3rd volume, we really are developing a sapphic romance, and so I loved really getting to see that development. We also bring in a lot more female friendships, different people to this group as well that I've absolutely been loving. I loved seeing the food that they make and the different talk about food in volume 3 a little bit, going into volume 4, and I think it's said on like the summary of volume 5 that we're going to be getting soon, that we do have a little look into one of the other side characters who has this sort of like disordered view of food, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with that. So we do have some a little bit heavier topics in this series, but I've really been loving especially the more recent volumes because we're getting into who these characters are more. Like, the beginning of the series was still good, it just wasn't like my favorite because of the fact that it started off a little bit slow, but like I am 100% invested now. I really probably need to own these for myself. Number 6 is going to be I Hear the Sunspot 4 Seasons Volume 1 by Yuki Fumino. So this is actually like the 6th volume in the series because this series has like different arcs sometimes. So like volume 1 was volume 1, but then volume 2 technically started a whole new arc. Volumes 3, 4, and 5 were one arc, and now this is going to be starting a whole nother arc. I absolutely love this series. This is a male-male romance series with kids. I say kids because they're younger than me, college age, although now that we're getting into this part here, they're looking into like actually going into jobs and things like that. One of them already has a job. I've really been loving the look into a relationship and how that works when you're not like both in school together and seeing each other every day and like you're actually trying to figure out those adult things of like starting jobs and stuff. This one does have one character who is hard of hearing, and the other one, they meet in book 1 because he's taking notes for him in his class in exchange for box lunches. The premise, totally cute. But I've really been enjoying this series more and more, which is why it's so high on this list even though it's only 1 volume, because we actually have this like secondary cast of characters now, other characters who are deaf, other characters who are hard of hearing, and the people in their lives and how things work with family and things like that. Like, this is a sort of hard-hitting series in some parts, but like, I absolutely love it. Every single volume. I also think the art style has definitely grown with the author. Like, the art style when like you go back and read book 1, because I reread the whole series this year, is not as great. I think volume 1 I gave a 4 stars, but everything else I gave a 5 stars. But I don't talk about rereads here when I do my best books. So I only have this one here, but just let me tell you, it is one of my favorite series of all time. Moving into number 5, another series that could probably be a favorite of all time, but I finished it out this year, is My Love Mix-Up by Wataru Hinakure. So I read volumes 1 through 7 last year. It was on my list last year. I absolutely loved it. I finished it out with reading volumes 8 and 9. I absolutely love this series. This one is more young adult, but it is again going to be a male-male romance, and it all comes about because of a mix-up. One of the boys, this blonde one right here, borrows an eraser from this girl, and it has his name on it, this guy here. And so when he drops it and he picks it up, he thinks that the eraser is his and that it has his name on it and that he has a crush on him. Everything comes about because of this mix-up. And there is some mix-up stuff going on in almost every single volume. It is very heartwarming, but sometimes silly. Like, the art style is adorable, but every so often it just becomes a little bit outrageous, and I absolutely love that. I will say that volume 9 had a little bit at like the middle part of it where I was going to be so disappointed and shocked and outraged. And it mixed me up, and I still absolutely loved it. So like, there was something in here that I was like, excuse me, but it still turned out great. I absolutely love this series. I will probably be rereading them eventually because I just thought they were so fun. My number 4 star is going to be Fangs by Sarah Anderson. So this is one that I borrowed from the library. A lot of the ones that you don't see me have up here, like holding them, I borrowed from the library this year. And this is partly because this is a hardcover book and it's very short, but I think it was absolutely adorable. Basically, these are just like little short scenes between a vampire girl and a werewolf boy who fall in love, and it is absolutely adorable. I loved every bit of it. Like, I can see myself picking it up like every fall season. Like, it was just so good, like more than I thought it was ever going to be. Somebody recommended this to me a couple years ago and I just never got to pick it up, and I'm so glad I did. It was so cute. Number 3, I have Sakura Saku by Io Sakisaka. I read 4 volumes of this, so volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, I borrowed them from the library, but I know I'm gonna have to own them eventually because this was adorable. I have pretty much loved almost everything Io Sakisaka has done, and this one is no exception, obviously. This is a young adult series, shoujo, where we basically have Saku, who was on a train, a subway, and had this like incident happen where she needed help. And when she woke up from this incident, a boy had helped her, and she was left with a note saying that the person who helped her was Ryosuke Sakura. And so she's going out to try and find him, and she finds this boy in her school who is a Sakura, and his brother is Ryosuke, and so she's trying to like get to his brother to like thank him and everything, and stuff just sort of happens from there. Friendships are very much developing. I'm thinking it's gonna have some romance elements in it eventually. It doesn't really right now, but it's really just like, you know, young adult, going to school, high school, friendships, like all that kind of stuff, and I am invested. 100% invested. I am so excited for this series. Like, I need more. Moving into number 2, we have another young adult series. This one is Insomniacs After School by Makoto Ojiro. I read volumes 1 through 6 and gave them 5 stars. I think I read volume 7 and gave it a 4.5, so it's still really high up there. This whole series, again, very adorable, very cute. I love the art style, and this is following 2 characters, one boy, one girl, who are both insomniacs for different reasons. You do discover them throughout the volumes that I've read so far, And basically because of the insomnia that they have a really hard time obviously sleeping at night, and they find this like room in school that was abandoned because it used to be like the astronomy observatory, and so when they get caught there, they now have to start the astronomy club again. So they're up during the middle of the night pretty much anyway, so why not look at the stars? There is more stuff obviously going on with that. There is a little bit of romance, very much friendship vibes, found family type of stuff. Like, I absolutely have been loving this so much. Again, I'm probably gonna need to own it myself, but I've been borrowing them from the library for now. It is adorable. And then we're gonna move into my number one, which I've just been talking about a whole lot of adorable things, right? Lots of romance, lots of cutesiness. My number one for 2024 is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Hovarth. This is basically Richard Scarry's Busy Town meets Dexter. We have a serial killer bear who lives in this town, but she goes to like the city to kill people so that nobody knows that she does anything in her town, because her town is perfect, her town is idyllic, she loves her town, she doesn't want anything bad to happen to her town. And one day after she goes to the city to go kill somebody and chop them up and whatnot, and she comes back to town, and like the very next day somebody in her town is murdered. And yeah, she is now determined to figure out who is ruining her chance at having this great life in her town. It is messed up. It is fucked up. It is mind-blowing. I loved it so much. It is my number one. It is a very different vibe from most of the things that I talked about. I mean, one of my ones that I passed by very quickly earlier, like my honorable mentions, Ali by Junji Ito, is a horror short story collection. So I do love that stuff as well. I think I just read a lot more cutesy things this year, but this, every single issue, because I read them as issues originally, is mind-blowing and makes you want to continue this. I had to buy it and own it physically because I loved it so much. It is so weird. It is so dark, and I could not stop reading in a good way. But like, yeah, the vibe of this definitely different than everything else I just talked about. But like, I loved it so much. I will say, because of the whole Richard Scarry Busy Town type of vibe here, this does have violence and things like that, but they are animals, so animal death, that kind of stuff. It's anthropomorphized animals, keep that in mind. But I loved it. Yeah, I did. I really did. And so that is going to be everything today. I don't think I realized until like when I was talking to you guys right now that literally everything was very like sort of cutesy, maybe a little bit hard hitting, but like that was my number one. So usually I ask you guys like, what was your favorite read or not? I don't know how many people that watch me actually gravitate toward comics, graphic novels, or manga, but if you read one and you had a favorite for 2024, let me know down below. I am always looking for new recommendations, and if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!